The opening up process has begun. 6 states start to open up a little today, including Texas. By the way, curbside pickup at stores will start and be allowed as of today. That's part of Governor Abbott's plan to reopen the state. And look who's with us. The senator from Texas, one of the two, the great Ted Cruz joins us now. Sir, it's great to have you on the show today. Thanks for coming along. Now,
Stuart, good morning. Good to be with you.
We're trying to open up, but do it safely at the same time. Obviously, it's a balance. You think Texas has achieved that balance?
Well, I hope so, and that's certainly what we're trying to do. We have nationally, we've got two catastrophes playing out simultaneously. We've got the global health pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, which is serious, and across the country, we've taken extraordinary steps to flatten the curve and slow the spread of the disease. But we also have an economic catastrophe. We have 26 million people who've lost their jobs. We have small businesses by the millions on the verge of going bankrupt. And so I'm glad Texas is moving forward with allowing businesses to open, allowing people to go back to work. We need to do so as fast as possible, consistent with the science, consistent with the medical professionals' advice about how to slow and how to mitigate the spread of the virus.
Okay. How do you feel about another stimulus or rescue package? I know it's being talked about, but some Republicans want a pause. No more of this spending. Where do you stand on that, Senator?
We have spent more than enough money. We cannot spend our way out of this. We've spent now nearly $3 trillion. We've spent 15% of our total national debt. Enough is enough is enough. The focus, look, I supported every one of these bills that has come through. I agree that we need emergency relief to help people through the crisis as a short-term bridge loan. But none of the spending that we've spent, there's a reason I don't call it a stimulus bill. It wasn't designed to fix the problem. It was simply relief to people who were hurting and hurting through no fault of their own. We need to give this money some time to be spent. But more fundamentally, we need to restart the economy. And so what I'm interested in, we're expected to be back in session in 2 weeks. When we come back, what I think we ought to focus on is not yet another relief and spending bill, which seems to be what Nancy Pelosi wants to do, but instead a recovery bill, a bill that is designed to help small businesses that are finally reopening their doors, finally seeing customers come back, putting in place policies to help those small businesses grow and regenerate the jobs and get the 26 million people who've lost their jobs back to work.
When do you think we can get back to economic growth? Third quarter of this year? Fourth quarter of this year? When can we get back?
It depends on how quickly we manage to control the spread of the virus. Look, the process of reopening is going to vary geography by geography. It's not going to be uniform, and it's going to depend upon the medical science. So New York City, what has happened in New York City has been horrific and heartbreaking for the entire country. Nobody is suggesting that New Yorkers should return to work tomorrow. The right. Situation and facts on the ground don't make sense there. But there are other parts of the country that thankfully have not had anywhere near that rate of infection, that rate of hospitalization, that rate of fatalities. I think in other parts of the country, like Texas, we should be protecting those who are really vulnerable. We should be protecting the very elderly. We should be protecting those with very serious health conditions. That's the population that the virus has proved particularly damaging for. But for everyone else, for young, healthy people, they ought to be getting back to work, driving the economy, moving towards economic growth. Now, it in all likelihood won't be exactly the same as it was 3 months ago. We may well be using PPE. We may well be wearing masks and gloves. Restaurants may have to redesign their dining rooms to spread the tables out so that you have social distancing. We can use reasonable common sense steps to slow the spread of the virus, but just freezing our economy for weeks and weeks and months on end, that's going to cost human lives too. That's going to cost human lives from mental illness and depression and suicide and substance and alcohol abuse. And we need to protect lives. We need to protect lives on both sides of the ledger, on the side of the disease, but also on the economic side and all of the devastating consequences of what's happening because of the government policies being put in place to fight the pandemic.
Yeah, let's get through to the other side. By the way, Senator, what
Yes.
happened to the full beard? A lot of people that I know said that really suited you. What have you done?
Well, it's the same as it always has been. The hair's a little bit longer. I haven't had a haircut in a couple of months,
Me too.
but the beard has been largely unchanged for about 2 years now.
People like it, by the way. Senator Cruz, thanks very much for joining us, sir. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Stuart.
Sure thing.